Out of all the years that I've been taking photographs, I don't think I've ever gone to an area where I've more or less just stepped out of the car and taken a photograph and really liked it. But that was kind of the case with this photograph here, and that's why I've put it at the beginning of this video. My friend Jeremy and I had decided to go to Carmanah Provincial Park, which is on the west coast of Vancouver Island. And on our drive out, we stopped at quite a few different areas, just more or less driving along the logging road. And if we saw something that looked like it had potential, then we'd stop, get out and go check it out. And that was the case with this scene here. I'd noticed a few islands at the west end of Cowichan Lake from the corner of my eye. So we hiked through a bit of a forest and came to this beautiful scene that you see here. Now the weather itself was gloomy and it was drizzling. And as a color image, this is not particularly exciting. But I could see the potential, and the composition was just right in your face. It was really easy to set up this photograph. And it was actually Jeremy that found it first, and then I kind of wandered along and saw the same composition. And we both took turns in taking this shot. What I really liked about this scene was all of these red alder branches pointing your eye towards the islands in the center there. Now I was quite careful in the way that I composed this image. You'll notice there's a little island out to the right, and I've kind of cradled that in between some branches. And also the island in the very center there, I made sure that none of the branches were overlapping or touching it. There's one there that's very close, but it's not touching it. And that was all done on purpose. So if you spend a little extra time in setting up your compositions, you can really start to fine-tune things. Now, as far as the toning in this image, I quite liked the sepia tone and that kind of flat look, but I showed it to some friends of mine and they thought that perhaps it might look better with a cooler tone. So I have another version here that has a cooler tone, and I'd be interested to know what you guys think. Do you like the warmer tone or the cooler tone? Hello everybody. I hope you're all doing really well. Slightly different environment this week. I'm back to Vancouver Island to photograph trees again. The rest of Canada seems to be in a huge deep freeze right now, and it's funny because out here it's a little cold this morning, but nothing like eastern Canada or central Canada. And later today it's supposed to get up to about 7 degrees, so perfect. So this weekend I'm heading out to one of my favorite areas on the island, and that's Carmanah Provincial Park. And my good friend Jeremy, he's come out with me, and we're both camping in my van, which is kind of interesting because usually I just go on my own in my van, but we seem to be squeezing in there okay. It's not too bad so far. But we've just kind of stopped along the road here, the logging road, and we're just looking for compositions as we go along, because there's lots of great areas with lots of mossy big leaf maples, and most of it's second growth along the road here, but it's old second growth, about 100 years old, so there are some pretty nice areas. The weather right now is perfect. There's a bit of blue sky, but there's clouds as well, so there's opportunities to get some nice light in the forest. So it's really quite nice. Anyway, I hope Carmanah is open, because there'll probably be a lot of windfall there. We still have quite a ways to go. We still have about a 50-60 kilometer drive along logging road. So right, we'll just keep going and see what we can find. Funny the things you find in the woods. Look what I found. And it still works. So anyway, we're just kind of driving along the road here, the logging road, and found a bit of a stream with some rocks and water that's kind of flowing over the rocks. So, and there's nice mossy trees, so I'm just going to go down there and see if I can find any compositions down there. I'm not sure if there'll be anything there, but it's always good to explore and have a look. Otherwise, how are you going to discover anything new? Okay, this location is absolutely beautiful. Have this really great kind of a mossy island, and then on one side we have the Cascades, and then a beautiful pool kind of at the back. Now, I'm not really quite sure how to approach this, because with the Cascades being on the right side here, it kind of outbalances the left side, but we have this really great tree that kind of overhangs. So I'm not sure if it's going to kind of be off balance or not, but I think what I'm going to do is actually do a pano. So I'm going to back up a little bit and see if I can get this whole scene in from this tree that's leaning over to the right, and then go right over to the island, and then we've got the Cascades, and then we've got lots of mossy trees on the right side as well. Yeah, it's really quite beautiful. Right, I'll set up and see what I can find. Okay, I've taken a number of photographs, but as always, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the composition here. You see, I really like this overhanging tree here. I really like that, and I just love the Cascades here with the log at the back here, and then the two trees and all the ferns. The problem that I'm having is that to be able to get that overhanging tree in, I have to kind of go over to the left-hand side here, which is fine, but then I start losing the Cascades, and if I go too far over to the right to get the Cascades, then I start losing this overhanging tree. Now, I have taken a few shots of just the Cascades with the log, but I'm not sure that it's enough. Like, the light is very flat today, which is fine for this type of photography, but it just feels like it needs just a little bit more, like a little bit of mist or some directional light for backlighting for the moss. But I'll post the images that I've taken, and then once I go home and process these images, then I can have a closer look at them, and I can kind of scrutinize and critique them as I go along. Nevertheless, it is a beautiful scene. I just love all the greens and the moss in here. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And for this time of year, the ferns are looking really good because we've had such a mild winter on the coast here, so they haven't been flattened by snow or wind or anything like that. So everything's looking really lush and green, even though it's the beginning of February. I really lucked out on this trip. Jeremy and I, we found some beautiful areas that I'd never been to before. It's amazing what you can find if you just get out of your car and just start hiking. Even in the smallest of areas, you can find some really neat stuff. Now granted, living on the island has its benefits. There's lots of really beautiful areas to go and visit, but most of the area up to Carmanah has been heavily logged, so it's really hard to find any kind of pristine wilderness unless you go up into the higher elevations, which on the island is a real grind. Now, as far as this photograph goes, I was really happy with the way that it turned out. I didn't do an awful lot to it. As I said in my little spiel there, it is a little bit off balance with the white water all on the right side. and not so much on the left side. So what I did was I did brighten up the creek there on the left side, and I did a bit of burning in the corner there just to kind of draw your eye to that part of the creek. But that was pretty much it. I used a bit of Gaussian blur in the background just to kind of give it a misty, ethereal look to it. The hard part for me with these types of scenes is not to oversaturate the greens. Now, as soon as you use a polarizer, then you really do saturate the greens. So what I often do is I'll actually pull back on the saturation because I like it to look as natural as possible. But yes, I was really happy with this scene. It really represents coastal British Columbia really nicely. All right, everybody, I'm going to leave it there for now. Be sure to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and always, if you enjoy the content of my channel, be sure to subscribe. And be sure to tune in for next week's video, where we continue our trip through Carmanah Provincial Park and beyond. All right, everybody, thanks ever so much. Bye for now.